Hello lovely people and long time no chat. Sorry it's been a little while since I've been on here. I've had lots of stuff going on and to be honest my mood has taken a bit of a downwards turn ever since like autumn has hit. Always happens to me at this time of year and I've just really not felt like coming on camera and chatting. I've got my cozy tea. I think it's the M&S spiced apple infusion with a bit of honey. It's too hot for me to drink it just yet, but it is the best autumny drink and it just fills me with serotonin. A few things I love about this time of year are the leaves turning orange. Aesthetically, it is beautiful. I also love hot drinks, cozy nights by the fire, being like all cozy and spending time with family. And I also do love the excuse to curl up under a blanket with a nice, just like cozy, comfy, light-hearted read. Something that has been improving my spirits immensely is having nice, like serotonin-y reads, if that makes sense. Like just books that you don't really need to think too much about. They're not gonna have any sort of like really horrible dark turns. They're just kind of like sweet and nice and warm and cushy. I'm always searching for recommendations for books like this, so I thought I would share mine with you today, just in case they help anybody else at this time of year who might be struggling or maybe just enjoys this cozy time of year and wants something that's not like a spooky horror to read for Halloween. So the first book I want to talk about is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is not autumnal in the sense that it is set in the summertime. It's like summer vacation. It's like summer vacation vibes. I can't do an American accent. We don't call it vacation in the UK, we call it holiday. It's not like autumnal in the sense that it's not set in like an autumnal setting, but it's so cozy and it made me feel like it was autumnal because it's like a small town, like with lumberjacks. It's like the kind of town I can imagine if Stardew Valley was a town in real life. It's the kind of town I can imagine Stardew Valley being, and I always think of Stardew Valley as just like the epitome of like cozy autumn vibes. So I really enjoyed like the setting of this. Also, I'm not usually a massive romance reader, but I will make an exception for Emily Henry because she does it not too sweet, not too cheesy, but enough of that it's still kind of like cute and fun. But it's also well written. It's also got a bit of humour in there that's like actually funny and not just kind of cringy. So her characters are always quite well rounded, which I like, and the female characters are strong and independent and like they've got a full rounded personality and it's not just all about, oh my god, I like this boy so much. The main character of this book, Nora, she is a cutthroat literary agent at the top of her game. So she is a career-driven woman. She is independent. She's quite cold and kind of emotionally detached, which I liked because usually it's just like some girl who, oh, she's, you know, so ditzy and daydreamy, but she's in love with this boy and that's her entire personality. And it's just not realistic. So I love that there's a real, fully fleshed out female main character. Charlie, who is the male, her like male nemesis, he is an editor. So she's a literary agent, Charlie is an editor. So I love that idea of like, it's all set in the kind of world of book publishing, which if you love books, which you probably do if you're watching this video and you want to read a book. It's like book lovers love reading about books and like about people who love books. So it's the perfect kind of inception and I just love it. So basically she ends up going to this like remote town and her sister who's pregnant really wants her to like find love and get away from the big city and maybe find like a small town romance. And who does she bump into but Charlie, her work nemesis. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of predictable what's going to happen next, but it's just such a cute, fun, light-hearted, cozy read. And I really recommend it for this time of year if you're just feeling a little bit down in the dumps and want something that's just easy. I was in a bit of a reading slump before I picked this one up. Brought me straight out of it because I just was like immediately into the book. So my favourite line from the book that I highlighted was right at the beginning actually, and it's about Nora. So it says, "That's the thing about women, there's no good way to be one. Wear your emotions on your sleeve and you're hysterical. Keep them tucked away where your boyfriend doesn't have to tend to them and you're a heartless bitch." I love that because it's so true and like so relatable. And yeah, this is what I love about Emily Henry's writing, is that she manages to include like actually quite important messages like that, whilst it also just being like a cozy, light-hearted romance. So yeah, very much enjoyed that one. Next on the list is one of my favourite books of all time, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea. I listened to this book on audiobook back in, I think, 2020 or 2021, and it was when I was in a bit of a dark place. Mentally, I wasn't great, I wasn't in a good relationship, just wasn't happy basically. Into this audiobook and it filled me with so much serotonin and good vibes, and then I ended up dyeing my hair pink. So it was all a little bit of a crisis, but it was all because I just needed the serotonin. So I had the serotonin from this book and the serotonin of dyeing my hair pink, and that is what got me through. I highly recommend listening to it on audiobook if you like audiobooks, because it was a really good audiobook, but it's also a really just lovely book anyway. So it's about a guy called Linus who is a caseworker in the department in charge of magical youth. So it's set in a kind of world where there's like magical children. He is like a real like rule abider, he never goes against the rules. 40 years old, lives in like a really tiny little house with his cat, and doesn't really have any friends, and just kind of keeps to himself and just follows the rules, goes to work every day, and that's about it. That's his life. And then one day he gets summoned by extremely upper management, and he is given a task, and that is to go to an orphanage on a very distant island. He needs to assess these 6 very highly dangerous children. So dangerous that they're worried that they're basically about to bring about the end of the world. So he ends up going, because obviously he follows all the rules, and he gets there to this mysterious, strange island, and he meets all these children, and he also meets Arthur Parnassus, who is the owner of the orphanage. So yeah, it's a really gorgeous story about kind of like friendship and love. It's really funny, like it proper made me laugh like quite a lot, which is rare in a book. Like I don't often find books that actually properly make me laugh, but this one did. Like it's actually funny. I have this quote on the front. It's by V.E. Schwab, who actually wrote this other book that I'm going to be talking about in a second. But she said, "I loved it. It's like being wrapped up in a big gay blanket, simply perfect." And that is exactly how I feel. It's just like rainbows and sunshine and like a big gay hug basically, and I just adored it. Highly recommend this if you're feeling down at all and you just want like a real feel-good book to read. And yeah, the audiobook is also amazing. Okay, next up is a very autumnal one. The other two aren't actually like set in autumnal settings really, but they just give me like cozy vibes. This one is set in an autumnal setting and it's very Halloween-y, and yeah, anyway, so it's called The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. Vivian Jones, who is this witch, and she breaks up with her boyfriend and she drinks a load of vodka, and her friend end up cursing her ex-boyfriend, sorry. Years later, he ends up coming back to the town and all these things start going wrong, and they're like, did we actually curse him? Because we didn't mean to, like it was supposed to be a joke, like a drunk joke. Basically, it turns out that they did accidentally curse him, and it's all about fixing this curse that they've put on him. And yeah, there's a lot of like just romance, and it's all set around kind of like Halloween, and obviously it's like all spooky, kind of like witches and ghosts and things, but it's like not spooky in like a scary way whatsoever. It's just spooky, kind of cute spooky. I really didn't expect to like this at all. Like the only reason I bought it was because it was £3 from the works, and I'd seen quite a few people like talking about it, so I just thought I'll give it a go. Like I'm looking for something just that's light-hearted and easy, but like it really surprised me. Like I actually really enjoyed it. Like I found it funny, which I didn't expect. The humour is actually funny in this one as well. It's just cute, like it warmed my heart. It's just another really easy one. It's so nice for this time of year to actually read like kind of Halloween-y things. Also, little side note about the book is that it has these on the title pages, which I loved. I like little cat with a candle. Very good, funny, cute, light-hearted, just an all-round good one if you like a kind of cozy romance. And last, but most certainly not least, because this is probably up there with one of my favourite books of all time, it might even be my absolute favourite book of all time, is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I love this book. with all my heart and soul. Also, this is the limited edition. I have the normal edition. Her signature. And it's got the most beautiful illustrations inside it. Look at these title pages. Obsessed. And yeah, it's got beautiful sprayed edges, and then in the middle it's got even more illustrations. So it's got these like gorgeous. So the story starts in France in the 1700s, and Adeline, who is the main character, is basically told that she needs to marry this man whose wife has just died. She's 23 and she thought that she was past the age where she would have to be married off, and she doesn't want to marry him, she doesn't know him, she doesn't love him, so she runs away, and she ends up making a deal with a god who actually ends up tricking her. She gets granted immortality, but in exchange she won't get remembered by anybody that she meets. She'll meet people and then sort of start some kind of relationship with them, and then as soon as they sort of look away or walk away, they'll completely forget that they ever met her. So she ends up living this like really lonely existence for over 300 years. She lives kind of lots of different like identities. One day she meets this guy called Henry, and I'm not going to say anything more, but basically Henry ends up changing her life, and yeah, it's a beautiful story. It's got a lot of mixed reviews because I think when you hear the plot, it sounds like, wow, that's really sort of like action-packed and it's going to be really plot-driven. Actually, it's not. It's very character-driven. It's evocative, and it kind of plays with language like in this way to kind of create an entire atmosphere, rather than just using language for the purpose of like practically explaining plots or whatever. It's more about actually focusing on the language. It's quite poetic and lyrical, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeously written. I love it for this time of year because it kind of creates this cozy ambiance, creates this entire like aesthetic in the book, which is just all very kind of ethereal, and I can't really explain why I love this so much and why I love it for this time of year, but it just gives me like the chills thinking about it and thinking about the language. And I really want to go back, annotate it all with my favourite quotes, because wow, it's such a beautiful book. An example of the beautiful writing. So this is the god who granted her wish but really tricked her, and he says, "I am not some genie bound to your whim." He pushes off the tree. "Nor am I some petty forest spirit content with granting favours for mortal trinkets. I am stronger than your god and older than your devil. I am the darkness between stars and the roots beneath the earth. I am promise and potential, and when it comes to playing games, I divine the rules, I set the pieces, and I choose when to play. And tonight, I say no." And that's just like one example, just flicking through, of like amazing language, and like just the way it's written is just so good. And it's quite Halloweeny because I find the like devil character kind of spooky, but he's also like sexy, and the whole book is just like sexy. It's a delicious book. It's just, I want to eat it up and wear it. So yes, these are my favourite books for this time of year. I also just want to make a little mention, I haven't got it here, but I just thought the His Dark Materials trilogy by Philip Pullman is another like amazing set of books that I love reading at this time of year, because they're just so kind of magical, and but then also like philosophical, and they really make you think, but they're also quite nostalgic because I loved them when I was a kid. So yeah, I might also reread them soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, and also let me know if you have any good autumn cozy recommendations, because I'm always on the lookout. I need it this time of year. It's a struggle. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing good. Lots of love, and see you soon. Bye.